See, my signal's up now. Okay, folks, so the signal is looking strong at the moment. I don't know why it wasn't before. Nope, there it goes. We get like 15 seconds and then it does it again. And the signal is coming out strong from our end. We're not going to let this stop us. We're going to continue to do the show. We are going to continue to speak with you because these are important issues. And the fact that Twitter looks like it's completely out at the moment, I'm not sure. But folks, let's continue. So we have mentioned to you that Joe Biden has already made the decision. He is only speaking to certain family members of those service members that died on Thursday. He did not speak to Kathy McCollum because Kathy McCollum criticizes him because of his lack of planning, his lack of understanding the consequences of his actions. And we'll be very clear. This is Joe Biden's actions. These are his orders. He is sitting in the Oval Office. He is the commander-in-chief. This is what he has done, and this is what the Democrats are running away from. They are hiding as desperately as much as they can to not be involved in this. They do not want to have this conversation. They do not want to talk about the fact that American citizens, as being reported by the, as we have reported from the Guardian News in England, this is something they knew was going to happen, and this is something that they planned for. Because of the Biden administration's actions, there have been British citizens who have been left in Afghanistan and could not evacuate. It is absolutely likely that there will be American citizens who will be left in Afghanistan and could not get out because they can't get to the airport between ISIS and the Taliban, which we have been told many times now they are preventing certain people from being able to get to the airport, which is not secure. And the embassy has been saying for many days now to avoid the airport, telling American citizens don't go there because there is an imminent attack. And by the way, there is that message again at this moment. There is an imminent attack expected in the next 24 to 36 hours. So imagine this, and I'm asking you guys out there. Imagine that you're in Afghanistan right now. You have just been told by the United States Embassy for the 4th time not to go to the airport because there is a potential attack that is coming from ISIS. You know for a fact that on Thursday, ISIS has sent suicide bombers, and they have killed American citizens and over, I believe it is 160, perhaps 180 other internationals, other individuals, Afghanis, predominantly Afghanis, a couple of British individuals and others. And you're being told you can't go to the airport, but at the same time you're being told, oh, we are ending our flights. There are not going to be any more flights evacuating anyone out of Afghanistan. And by the way, if you're stuck, well, that's on you. It's your fault. How do you think that American citizen is going to feel? How do you think that American citizen is going to react? Because I imagine they're not going to be very happy. And I have to imagine we shouldn't be happy as a nation. We should be angry. We should be very, very angry. Especially when we find out that members of our service, they're upset. You may recall, this is Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller, 17 years in the Marine Corps. 17 years in the Marine Corps. He is served on the line, in the line of fire. And he stood up. He made a statement. He said, this is ridiculous. There is no accountability. Our leaders have failed. It's not the Marines. The Marines have not failed. They have stood up for the American people. They have done their job. They have followed the orders that have come to them. But it's the leadership that has failed, and the leadership who refuses to be accountable, kind of like Joe Biden, as he says, well, it's Trump's fault. You know, even though he set the orders, he made the plan, he set the time frame, he gave the orders, He even said in his press conference on Thursday, he fundamentally is at fault for everything. That's what Joe Biden said. But yet, it's not his fault. Oh, no, but it's not his fault. And you know what happened? When Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller made this statement, he knew for a fact that he was going to get punished. And he did. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller lost his command. He has been disciplined. His career is over. His career in the Marine Corps, 17 years, they're over. He's 3 years away from getting his retirement. Not going to happen. He's going to be most likely discharged with a bad discharge. He's going to be kicked out of the Marine Corps. Not because he did something wrong, not because he wasn't a good Marine, not because he wasn't a good officer, not because he didn't do what he was supposed to do. It's because in the worst disaster, and this isn't just political, but this is one of the worst disasters the United States has ever seen, with consequences internationally that are absolutely devastating for other countries, our allies, and ourselves. And because he had to make a statement to try and wake them up, to try and get them to react, to take responsibility, and to plan for some of these consequences, he was removed. And he will be kicked out of the Marine Corps. Now, I understand. As a member of the military, myself, serving in the Marines, I understand. You're not supposed to speak, especially in uniform, about your commander-in-chief publicly. At the same time, we have to understand when you have someone who is literally causing the death of your fellow soldiers because of incompetence, because of ineptitude, when you have someone who is unwilling to speak about any of the eventualities of the plan that has been proposed, where we have seen over and over again how this has created a worse situation, then yeah, in good conscience, you speak out. Thou mentions, I'd be pissed if I made my way out of that situation, made it back to the United States. I'd be camping in front of the White House as a constant reminder to the administration that I had been left behind. Break the chain of command. You don't get to stay in the chain. Absolutely. And I'm not going to say that Lieutenant Colonel Scheller did the best thing possible. I'm in the military. I understand. NJP. The Unified Code of Military Justice. You follow the chain of command. He went outside of that. He is getting punished properly by the UCMJ. But I can't say that it was not warranted. Yes, the punishment will be warranted too. But we have to commend him for the bravery of standing up and saying, stop with these near suicidal plans. That running away and leaving civilians off on their own, that's not a good plan. That doesn't make sense. And the fact that we have done it forced our allies to do the same thing. The British weren't trying to leave sooner. They didn't want to leave their people behind. As you've heard from Boris Johnson, they had to do so because the United States left. The United States forced them into this position where they had to suddenly jump through hoops because Joe Biden and his Biden administration didn't bother to tell our allies what we were doing. Kind of like Bagram Air Force Base back on July 3rd. We didn't tell anyone we were leaving the base. We didn't tell them we were leaving the airport. We turned off the lights. We left the keys on the desk and walked away. That's part of the reason why the Taliban have, 40 Black Hawk helicopters? Why they have armored APC carriers, which is our armored personnel carrier for those who don't know. This is the insanity that has gone on. But I did want to talk about a couple of other things. I did want to address, because there are other things that are going on. There is a reason why the Democrats want to talk about anything and everything except this. Obviously, this is the most pressing thing. This is going to affect American lives. This is a violation of the very reason why the American government exists, which is to protect the American citizens. So there's a reason why they want to get away from that. And I tell you, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they really hate me talking about any of this. But let me tell you, what else is going on right now in America? What else are you not probably noticing? And I want to hear what everyone has to say. Please. I know Brian had mentioned that he thought that Biden is a feckless president, and I agree with you. And I am looking forward. And please, you don't have to agree with me. If you think I'm wrong, if you think Biden has done a fantastic job, if you think that he is doing the best thing possible, I would love to hear that conversation. Call on 607-242-1582. Don't let the internet overlords stop you from being able to have your voice heard. If you're in the United Kingdom, and we do have fans in the United Kingdom, and you want to talk about Boris Johnson, you want to talk to us about how many Britons have been left in Afghanistan that your own Vice Admiral has said was a known fact, that they did this on purpose. If you're in the United Kingdom and want to talk about that, please do. Call in or leave us a tweet. But I want to mention, do you remember, it was back in September of 2018 that we first heard that Twitter blocked 600,000 people. 600,000 people were unable to be able to use Twitter, that they were blocked. Their voices were silenced. In particular, there were members of Congress who had this happen. And Jack Dorsey, chief executive of Twitter, admitted, yep, they did it. It was unfair. It was an accident. They didn't mean to do it with their algorithm that targeted Republicans and conservatives, individuals that he disagreed with. No, it was an accident that this happened. That 600,000 people, including members of Congress, were silenced. And then year after year after year, we find that they keep doing the same thing. And we're seeing it happen today, right now, as I'm talking to you about these sensitive subjects. You know what else you see? According to India Today, reported on August 12th, their Congress, the Indian Congress, 5,000 of their accounts were blocked. Members of the Indian Congress, just like the United States Congress, were completely silent. They were unable to speak to their constituents. They were unable to speak to the world because Twitter said, you don't get a voice. We don't like what you have to say. That you are to be silenced. That's got to terrify you because on August 12th, that was right before we saw Afghanistan fall. And you know where some of the best news was coming that was telling us about what was going on with Afghanistan, what was going on with the Taliban? It came from India. The Hindustan Times, the India Today. They were some of the first ones to tell us what was happening in Afghanistan and how badly it was going. And Twitter decided, well, that's not information we want Americans to possibly see. That's not information we want the world to see because Joe Biden told us everything's going fine. Joe Biden said that there's no way that Afghanistan could fall to the Taliban in a week or a month. It's just not possible. There was no way that we could see Saigon happen in Kabul. So why would they let the Indian nation, India, why would they let their members of government speak and tell the world that, well, Biden is wrong? Why would they let them do that? They silenced them, shut them down. By the way, now, after the fact, after we have seen the devastation, after we have seen Americans being killed, Britons being killed, after we have seen the Taliban take over and they are killing their own people, women are being beaten to death. Men are being killed. There's a comedian who got killed. Now that we see this happening, it's too late. It's already over. The consequences are laid out in front of us. Now, Twitter fixed their problem. Just kind of like how they did with U.S. members of Congress. They fixed it. The algorithm needed to be tweaked. We're so sorry. How could that have possibly happened continuously over and over and over again? And these are the same people that allow groups like Antifa to be able to be heard. I mean, if you go to Facebook right now, this is live. This is on my Facebook page. I just searched it. You can do this yourself as well. And you can find that if you look, Antifa, this is a group that has been targeted by the United States Department of Homeland Security. They are targeted as individuals, domestic terrorists. Antifa. They are responsible for riots across this nation. They are responsible for autonomous zones, which are insurrection points where they violate every local, state, and federal law. That is a fact. I don't care if you agree with them or not. It is insurrection to violate every local, state, and federal law. That is a fact, and that's what these Antifa activists do when they create autonomous zones across this nation. These autonomous zones have killed children as young as 8. Yeah, and that was in Atlanta, and we did report about it at the time, amongst others, including a mother like Jessica Dottie Whitaker, innocent individuals like David Dorn. And Antifa, if you want to find them, they're on Facebook. There's pages for them. Appalachia, Antifa International. Just like Twitter is happy to have, you can find the Taliban on Twitter. Iran is on Twitter, the world's largest global terror nation. They are the largest supporter of global terror around the world. And Iran and the Ayatollah is on Twitter. The Taliban, who are killing women at this moment because they know how to read. They are killing men and women because they are gay, LGBTQ. They're doing that right now. The Taliban is on Twitter. But if you want to be in India, a member of the Congress, nope, you get silenced. American U.S. members of the Republican and Conservative Party, nope, you are removed. Your voice is silenced. Me, I want to talk to you, the public, and I want to talk to you about the issues that are going on in the world as we speak right this second. And I'm quoting international news sources, credible news sources, and I'm being silenced. You are being silenced. They don't want you to have this conversation internationally. They do not want you to have this conversation in the United States. They don't want you to discuss this. How dare you not fall in line and accept Joe Biden as your leader and do whatever he says because he's obviously correct. That is the message that we are getting from the internet overlords. And if you aren't upset about that, I don't know why not. But I am interested in hearing it. Leave me a tweet. Leave me a text telling me. I see Dal had to go over to Twitter, and Twitter is receiving this. It looks like DLive is covering this fine. But somehow, even though I'm getting the messages, as Cyrax has mentioned, that all wars are based on deception, some deceptions are larger than others. But I'm able to see your comments. I can't see you on Twitter, on YouTube, Cyrax. They won't show me you. I don't know that my signal is going out there, but I can see your messages, which tells me that is censorship, that they are willfully trying to hide this information from the public. But they're going to let Antifa, they can get on and say whatever they want. They will let the Taliban get on and say whatever they want. They will let Iran and China say whatever they want. But a Republican, a black Republican, oh my God, we can't allow a black Republican to say anything. Dal is there. See, DLive is up, folks. So if even one, Twitter's up, DLive is up, you know what? Why is Facebook and YouTube having a problem? Why are they down? It's the same signal being sent out at the same time. It's because of what I'm telling you, folks. And if you think that Twitter is only doing this, because I showed you, Facebook, Antifa, no problem. But if you think that this is old news, that Twitter, this is back in 2018, Twitter wouldn't dare try and block members of the United States Congress anymore. Yes, they blocked the Indian Congress. Well, that's not the United States. It doesn't matter to you as an American citizen. Well, guess what? Thomas Massie is a representative of the United States government at this moment. He sits in the House of Representatives at this moment, and he was getting blocked. August 28th, yesterday, at 8:27 a.m., Thomas Massie, a sitting member of Congress, is getting blocked by Twitter. That constituents are being denied the ability to see what their representative is saying and to respond back to him. 389 of his constituents potentially were trying to send him a message, to have a conversation with their congressman about the issues that are affecting their lives right now. And Twitter said, nope, not going to happen, and blocked them. Just like they're blocking me. Mike says, I've had to restart your site 3 times now. And I tell you, Mike, it's not me. If I can see your tweet, I seen your message. It was at 3:17 and 39 seconds. If that is when you sent that message, there is no delay getting to me, which tells me there's a problem. If I can see your message, but I cannot see the signal, something is going on. Yeah, and I can tell you, they're going to be in and out today because they don't want you to have this conversation, folks. They are trying their very, very best to not let you see this, and yet still claim, no, there's no censorship. There's no censorship. Because, just because you can't see, Jason, I see at 3:19, you sent me a message that says 3:20. So there you go. But folks, I'm not going to be deterred. This is why it's so important that you subscribe onto the show and that you join us. It is vital. Because the more that you support and the more people that we are able to reach, the more free speech gets out there. If we are not deterred by when they decide to do gimmicks like this to try and run you away, to keep you from the news, when we stand steady and we continue to have our conversation, and when we fight through these delays, these issues, you know what? They have nothing. They will buckle. They will fold. Because they have no substance behind them. They just have intimidation behind them. That's why Thomas Massie went out on Twitter and said, hey, look at what they are doing. They are taking away the rights of my constituents. You hear all these BLM people there like, oh my God, we have no rights. You want to see no rights? Twitter is taking away your right. They are taking away your right to speak to your constituent, to your representative in Congress, because they don't like what he has to say. They are silencing you. You want to complain about something? That's what you complain about right there. And this isn't where it ends. Because think about it. We were telling you, do you remember on this program, it was back in, so far away, it was back on August 5th. August 5th, we were on this program talking with you, and we told you that it was not enough for Governor, or then Governor Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo could not just resign. No, he had to be brought up on charges. And that was the only way to stop him from wielding $18.5 million in campaign money. That he was going to use this campaign money to be able to wheel and deal in the background as a private citizen to attack his enemies and to support his friends and to continue to increase the corruption in New York State. That we had to go through the entire process, not to just drop it, not to drop investigations, as has been done by the New York State Assembly, which is controlled by Democrats, that they wanted to just let it go. Oh, Andrews, he's resigned. It's all over. The 16,000 people that died, we don't need to talk about that anymore. The corruption, we don't need to talk about that anymore. We don't need to take away the $18.5 million that Andrew Cuomo is going to dole out to his friends to influence New York State politics. No, we don't have to have that conversation at all. That's what we heard from Democrats. That's what they did. Well, you know what? Now, August 27th, exactly 22 days after we first mentioned to you that this was a problem, that Andrew Cuomo not being charged, not being investigated, and with full control of $18.5 million would increase more corruption in not only the United States, but New York State. Finally, we get to see someone who actually covers the story that we did 22 days ago. That's how obvious this was. That's how absolutely in your face direct this was. It cannot be ignored anymore. So what do we see? It's a Democrat, by the way. State Senator Liz Krueger, a Democrat out of Manhattan, said that donors shouldn't contact Cuomo's campaign, should contact Cuomo's campaign and ask for refunds. She urges all donors to Andrew Cuomo's 2022 campaign to request refunds of their contributions. She also urged Cuomo to close his account and return all the contributions voluntarily. Now, here's the really funny part, she says. So, State Senator Liz Krueger goes on to say, I suspect he will not, but he will not. But should he refuse to do this, it is important for those who have supported the former governor in the past to stand that they will get their money now. Otherwise, it would be used to lie about attacks and against his perceived enemies. There was also another comment. John Kahaney, director of Reinvent Albany, says it would be the ethical thing for Cuomo to do to close the campaign account. But if Cuomo was ethical, he might still be governor. Folks, this is something we were telling you back on August 5th. Just like on August 18th, we told you that the United States government was planning to leave United States citizens in harm's way. On August 5th, we told you Andrew Cuomo was going to continue his reign of corruption, this time doing it from behind the scenes, because Democrats were unwilling to do the right thing and to charge him with the crimes and to prosecute him to the fullest extent and to remove his ability to wield this power against Democrats. The Democrats, they want his money. They want to be reelected. They want to maintain control, unilateral control of New York State. And Cuomo's got $18 million to help them do that. They're going to bend to his will to get that money. And that's going to harm the New York State residents. This is a problem. And we saw it on August 5th. We told you about it. And here it is. Now we're starting to hear from some news. And this is news that is not being widely spoken about. Dow mentions that there's been no reversal of the ruling by the Supreme Court that says a public figure who is in a position of governance must be reachable. I understand that, and Dow, let me clarify, because you're speaking about Twitter, you're speaking about Thomas Massie, and you make a good point, because you're speaking about Thomas Massie and you're saying, well, there is no obligation. He has no way to say that he has an absolute right, that constituents have an absolute right. Oh, sorry, excuse me. And that's true. There is no absolute right that he must be able to be reached. But that is a commonality. That is a courtesy that is being given to every other member of Congress. See, this is the thing. I wouldn't, if every single member, 535 members of Congress, were suddenly shut off by Twitter, if every world leader was shut off by Twitter, if Twitter said that none of the world leaders of anywhere in the world could speak on their platform, or if they were all simultaneously just removed from the platform at the same time, I wouldn't complain. Because, you know what? That's fair. That's fair game. But when you see that only certain individuals with only specific viewpoints, talking about only specific topics, that they are being targeted, that they are being isolated, that their constituents are being denied the ability to use this platform, then I have a problem. The problem is that the constituents, 389 of potentially 389 members of Thomas Massey's constituency, reached out to their member of Congress and said, hey, this is a platform you're on. I'm on here too. Let me send you a message just as if I had sent you an email, because you are here and I can reach you much quicker. And you know what? Twitter said, no, you can't do that. They killed the rights of 389 people. And they have never done this to any Democrat, any liberal, any progressive ever. And if there's anyone who is watching this that can tell me that they have ever seen Twitter or Facebook or YouTube that has denied Democrats the way that they have Republicans and conservatives, please let me know. I want to know about which case that was. Because as far as I have seen, every person who has been deleted have all been conservatives and Republicans and some libertarians. And everybody who has been silenced have been conservatives, Republicans, and some libertarians. I've never heard of a single Democrat, a single progressive, a single Democratic socialist that has ever been removed. Antifa still exists on the social media. That has to tell you something, folks. So, and that's why we see the corruption, like the corruption from Andrew Cuomo. Because in an environment when only certain people get to speak, and that we have the news media and the internet overlords promoting these individuals, even as they kill 16,000 people in a nursing home, even as they sexually assault 11 women, and they do this for years, for a decade they do these things, and it's allowed to happen, and everyone wants to turn a blind eye to it, and now this person has $18 million to continue to corrupt a state government and to negatively impact their people, and the internet overlords are perfectly fine with allowing that to happen. But meanwhile, I want to bring that up and say that's wrong, that shouldn't happen, that we should do something about this because it's not ethical, it's not right, it's not to the benefit of the public. When I say that, well, then I get bounced off of every single one of the internet social media platforms. I don't know. It's not, I can tell you, folks, it's not my system. Dow mentions Twitter's blocking him, a public figure, from his constituents. There could be an argument made that Twitter is violating Title 18, Section 241, which I do not know off the top of my head. I can tell you that it's a violation of Article 230, that it is violating, they are acting not as a platform, but as a publisher, that they are choosing the content, picking and choosing what can and cannot be said on their platforms, which is what an editor does, and therefore not Section 230, and therefore they don't deserve the money and the power that they are receiving as they are being protected by Democrats right now. Again, if someone thinks that I'm wrong, this is an open forum. You can still reach us on, apparently DLive is perfectly fine. Twitter is mostly fine. And occasionally on YouTube and Facebook, because they're intermittently trying to scare you away. They don't want you to hear this conversation. You know, and these are troubling things. We're seeing the corruption that is growing and continuing and being fostered by the internet overlords. We're seeing this being fostered by parts of our government. And at the same time, we have other parts of our government that are trying to do, well, other citizens that are trying to do the right thing. You may have heard about this, and I think it wasn't Dal. I think it was it Brian or was it Garth who mentioned that there are private American citizens who have gone into harm's way. And they have decided that they're going to try and get to Afghanistan, and they're going to try and help American citizens and the Afghani people to escape, to get out of Afghanistan, which is commendable. It's a wonderful thing. We should be very happy to see that. And one of the veteran groups here, they were able to get 630 Afghans to the Kabul airport. Something that we were told that the weight and power of the entire United States government could not do. Do you remember when Secretary Lloyd Austin, I believe it was August 20th, told the American people that it was not possible for them to go outside of the Kabul airport to get American citizens, that they couldn't go out and get the Afghan citizens who had helped the United States, that they were stuck at the airport and they did not have the capability to do so. Meanwhile, on that same very day, British paratroopers and French paratroopers and German special forces were going out into Afghanistan, and they were getting their nationals, their people, and bringing them over to the airport to get evacuated. Well, guess what? It wasn't just the British, the French, and the Germans that were able to do this. There were independent American citizens at the same time in something that was called the Pineapple Express. Former members of, I believe they were special forces, Green Berets, went into Afghanistan, and they were doing what the American government expressly told us they cannot do. That we had to rely on the Taliban because the American government, the most powerful military in the world, could not go out into Afghanistan and get American citizens or Afghan citizens that helped the United States government. And yet these guys, a handful, an all-volunteer group of military veterans did what the entire United States government could not do, and they were unwilling to do. They did not have the political will to go out and get American citizens and our Afghan partners that had worked with us for 2 decades. 630 of them. That's part of the Task Force Pineapple. 630 people, while our government, Secretary of State Lloyd Austin said, nope, can't be done. Can't be done. 6,000 troops. How many members of the Marine Corps are there? 230,000 Marines. There's something like 1.2 million in the Army. We couldn't do it. They did it with a handful of people, and we couldn't get it done at all. And yes, it is true that there have been other groups, just like Dal is mentioning here, individuals like Glenn Beck and many others who are trying to do the same thing that the Pineapple Express was able to get done. And you know why they aren't getting it done? Because the United States government is stopping them. See, in Kabul, the private rescue efforts grow desperate as time to evacuate Afghans runs out. This is coming from the Wall Street Journal. This was published on August 25th. And on August 25th, according to the Wall Street Journal, aid organizations have been told by Western governments, that would be the United States, that evacuation flights won't continue past Friday, as the U.S. military will need the days remaining until August 31st deadline to remove its own equipment and troops from Kabul. At the same time, our very same U.S. government as reported by the Daily Mail out of the United Kingdom, which is probably why you have not heard about this. Glenn Beck claims the United States Department and the White House are blocking efforts to rescue Afghan Christians from the Taliban who want to set them on fire. This was reported on August 26 by the Daily Mail out of the UK. Glenn Beck said in an interview with Fox News on Thursday that his organization, Nazarene Fund, has flown 5,100 Christians and other refugees out of Afghanistan since it fell this month to the Taliban. He claimed that on Thursday morning, shortly before the deadly bombing outside the Kabul airport, the group had 500, let me say it again, 500 Afghan Christians inside the airport. They were ready to depart, and then they were ordered back outside by United States officials. Glenn Beck is saying that we believe, and I'm quoting him here, we believe that our State Department is directly responsible for what we believe were some of these people who may have died. He doesn't know how many survived in the bombing that took place. The State Department has blocked us every step of the way. The State Department and the White House have been the biggest problem. You know what? You don't have to like Glenn Beck. You don't have to. You don't have to like Glenn Beck. You don't have to even respect Glenn Beck. You can disagree with him completely. Whoa. Seems like my system's freaking out. Okay. You don't have to like Glenn Beck. You don't have to respect Glenn Beck. You don't have to participate and support him whatsoever. But you should be very, very wary when he is getting on national news. And it is being reported internationally. It is confirmed internationally that the United States government is blocking efforts to save certain refugees. And in fact, they are identifying and targeting individuals to be left behind. And they are going out of their way to tell other nations like Macedonia not to accept refugees because they didn't set that up. Because they, the United States government, didn't organize that rescue. And they're diminishing the fact that there's things like the Pineapple Express. So that should trouble you. That the United States government, with its full power and force, are telling you, we can't get American citizens. They are telling you repeatedly for days on end that, for more than 10 days, they are telling you, we're going to leave Americans behind. And then when individual American citizens work to get Americans and Afghans out of harm's way, the State Department, the White House are working against them to leave those people in harm's way because of the politics, because of the political look. Come on, folks. You don't have to like Glenn Beck. You don't have to like the military. You could care less about Afghanistan. But you should care about American citizens and the government doing its own job, which is to protect American citizens. And you should be incensed that the United States government is blocking others from doing the job it's supposed to be doing. Because I can tell you, if a group, the Nazarene Fund, can get 5,000 people out, if the Pineapple Express can get 600 people out, how is it possible that the United States government can't do it? Because the reality here, and the honest and only true answer is, we can. We absolutely can. They just don't. Because Biden doesn't have the willpower to do so. He doesn't want to do it. That is the reality. And every single person who voted for Biden has to accept this is what you brought in. And I'm not picking on you. I want you to understand the consequences here. Because we have to understand the consequences as we go forward. Biden has made the choice that he will not go and save every American. He will not save every Afghan. He is more than happy to see the corruption of Andrew Cuomo. He is more than happy to allow the internet overlords to censor everything that they don't like, everything that he says, everything that he does. They will censor it. They will hide it from the public. They will soften it so that it sounds as good as possible. Which is why American people don't know that there are people who are doing what the government says it cannot do. In other words, what Biden will not give the order to do. And when Marines stand up like Lieutenant Colonel Schiller, they get removed from office. They get removed from command. They get blocked like Glenn Beck. This is a bad situation. And then we have the news media. They're covering this up as fast as they possibly can. I'll give you a great example. You heard about the airstrike earlier today. I mentioned it at the top of the show, that there was an airstrike that may or may not have killed other civilians on what we believe were members of ISIS with a suicide vest. Listen to this carefully.
Juju, what we hear is exactly that there is no linkage between this individual and the deadly attack yesterday at the airport in Kabul. But this individual is described as a planner of ISIS attacks and that he was possibly planning future attacks. Now, whether those were attacks against American officials or American civilians, it's unclear. But the word retaliation is not being used in terms of this individual because he was not being directly linked to the attack yesterday at the airport.
This is ABC News. Again, I'm using only credible international and U.S. national sources. This is ABC News as they reported yesterday, on the 27th, which is weird because the strike didn't happen until today, and today's the 29th. How ABC News is talking about it on the 27th when it happened on the 29th, I don't know. Maybe it's a typo. I don't care. But here's the thing. So we have the news media, and they're telling you, Biden says, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get those people. We are going to get you for killing our American members, service members, and our allies. And then, look, we blow up this one particular car. And people noticed this and they said, well, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The Pentagon is not going to release the names of these two high-profile ISIS planners killed in the single U.S. drone strike. Representative Claudia Tenney, a congresswoman, said, we're hearing that the Biden department is blocking private people getting people out of Afghanistan. Well, this is a question. So, and tell me if this makes sense to you. On Thursday, Joe Biden says, we're going to get the people who are responsible. These are people we could not find before. From August 15th until the attack on the American soldiers in Kabul, we had no idea what these people were. We didn't know where ISIS-K was. We didn't know what they were planning. We had no details. All we knew is that we could not get outside of the airport, and the Taliban was going to make sure that American citizens would be able to get to the airport because we suddenly trusted them as international partners because that's what Joe Biden decided they are. And somehow, ISIS decides to put together this plan that we know of 3 days beforehand, know that there is some kind of attack coming, and then it hits us. And then miraculously, the next day, the Biden administration and the military suddenly know where ISIS members are. So much so that they can pinpoint them when they are isolated and kill them. That's interesting. If we knew so many details about these ISIS members, if we understood to such pinpoint clarity that these members of ISIS, where they were and what they were doing, let me go and tell you. Representative Claudia Tenney had a better way of saying it. If Joe Biden had the intel on ISIS-K, where they were and what they were up to, then why didn't we not strike them before they took out 13 Americans? This administration is clueless, feckless, and making fools of America on the world stage. To which I said, that is exactly what I was wondering. Though attacking one of 7,000 ISIS former prisoners does not make the United States safe, with an open southern border and zero checks on Afghan refugees, when the US and UK have found questionable, prohibited people mixed in already and allow them to stay. So again, the question comes back to you folks. Does that make any sense to you? We know exactly where ISIS is after they attack our soldiers, after they kill our people. But we didn't know anything about them beforehand. We couldn't find them. We couldn't do anything. And Joe Biden's like, well, don't worry. We will do things after we leave. We will come back and get American citizens after we leave. We will take vengeance on these people who killed our American citizens after we leave. How? I've said that before. I will say it again. How? All the people who help us are leaving, have left already, or are dead. Who's going to help us? If we have such great insight and so much intel that we can pinpoint the members of ISIS, why are we letting them run around trying to blow up American citizens? Vic mentions that O.J. Simpson in Afghanistan with Bill Cosby. Okay, it's an odd joke there, Vic. But I'm telling you, folks, it's troubling to me. And I know they keep blocking everything I'm talking about today. I must be hitting all kinds of bells and whistles. I must be hitting the right subjects. I must be talking about the right thing at the right time because they hate this. They're blocking this so much. But I have to ask you people. I have to ask everyone. What happens on 9/11? When we see all this, the consequence of this is you're going to hear on September 11th, and possibly after, possibly before, there are going to be American citizens, there are going to be British citizens, possibly other citizens around the world that are going to be held by ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban. And they're going to be killed. And they're going to be held as hostages. And what are you going to say then? What are you going to say to their families then? Oh, I'm so sorry. We couldn't have possibly planned for this. Of course we could. We're planning for it right now. We were told to plan for this since August 18th. Oh, we were too busy with other issues, like blocking Thomas Massie from being able to speak to his constituents. We were too busy allowing Andrew Cuomo $18 million to buy and sell politicians in New York State. Those were our big issues. That's the big thing. Those are the things we have to do. We were too busy reading tweets from Chuck Schumer saying we should get rid of all the loan debt as he helps to add $3.5 trillion in debt. Oh, and Vic mentions he's not joking. It's a mockery of Biden's White House. Biden's White House is a mockery in and of itself. Just telling you what they're doing is a mockery. This is supposed to be the commander-in-chief. This is the guy who said, I have all the international experience. Everyone around the world has respect for him, and no one is acting as if they have respect for him because they don't. No one takes him seriously because they shouldn't. And again, if there is someone out there who believes I am wrong, if you are out there and you say, well, Mike, that's just not correct. If you have a news source that I'm using only international news sources, please tell me one that tells me where I'm wrong. Please show me any evidence that doesn't lead to the conclusions I'm speaking about. Tell me how I am misunderstanding the facts as they exist right now. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm asking. Yes, I am excited. Yes, I am upset. But that's because this is ridiculous. The United States government should never be in this position. We should never be kowtowing to any terrorist organization, any of them. But we are. We can't go out and get American citizens because the Taliban said so. We can't figure out how to stop ISIS until after they do something that looks politically bad. Then we're suddenly laser focused on them and can pinpoint them out of any, they're in a nation. We can find them in a second. Something's wrong with that. Something doesn't make sense in that we have such a laser pinpoint focus on them and can target them instantly and easily, but we didn't know they existed before. What? I'm so upset. I am so upset. And this isn't just affecting Americans. This is affecting the rest of the world. This is affecting the British. This is affecting the Australians, the French, and the Germans. Not just in the fact that their people are in danger. Well, they were until the fact that they all left. But now they have to deal with all of the people who are coming in illegally into the nation. There are many. We've already been seeing this. There are many people who are trying to slip into these crowds and to, and I'm trying to find my article on this so I can show you this, folks. Here it is. So I want you to hear this. This is from Boris Johnson. He is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. And I want you to hear what he has to say. This is from August 27th.
I obviously feel a great sense of regret that we aren't able to get everybody out in this first phase, but I don't think you should in any way underestimate the scale of the achievement of UK armed forces, the bravery of the men and women on the ground who have been able to shift huge numbers of people.
Falling onto the tarmac of that airport. We've seen people knee deep in sewage trying to get out. This isn't how it was meant to end. It is a national humiliation, isn't it?
Well, it's certainly not something that the timing of this is certainly not the one that this country would have chosen, and I think that everybody understands that. But I think in the circumstances, which are, as you rightly say, extremely difficult and extremely harrowing, and it's been terrible for the people at Hamid Karzai International Airport and for their families. There's been absolutely no doubt about that. And the terrorist attack has been quite appalling. And I'm not saying that things are going to be easy from now on in Afghanistan. As I've said, I think it will be very, very tough. But I do think when you look at what has been achieved by UK armed forces, to get that many people out.
Okay, so now
I obviously feel a great sense of regret that we aren't able to get everybody out in this first phase. But I don't think you should.
First phase. See, there's this is what. Yes, Vic, I know that they've been shutting down my feed. They've been kicking me off repeatedly today. But I won't stop. This will not stop me. They cannot silence me. I'll do this and I will break up the video into smaller videos. I'll make more videos. I won't do them live. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, folks. Because I'm here for you. And I hope that you do subscribe. If you have found anything that you've been able to find so far, if it's been of interest, please do like, do share this, do subscribe. Help us to do more. Because they're doing this on purpose. They're doing this for a reason. You're seeing the quotes and the comments come in live without delay. The internet overlords have the ability to let you see and hear everything that is being said. They're choosing not to. So let me focus on what I was just showing you. So Boris Johnson just said that this is the first phase in dealing with Afghanistan. What's the second phase? And this is something that he's coordinated with the United States. Because as he mentions, this wasn't his time frame. The British didn't want the time frame that Joe Biden provided. Joe Biden made this time frame. He made this happen. Not the other world leaders, not NATO. It was Joe Biden. And he knows it, and he's saying it. He just said it on August 27th. But then he's also saying, well, this is the first phase. See, they know. He just admitted he left people behind. Boris Johnson, besides the Vice Admiral of the United Kingdom's forces, they've admitted they know because of what was done and in conjunction with the plans of Joe Biden, people are being left behind. And I have to ask you, when this happens, what is going to happen to the United States? When the British people see their citizens, their brothers and sisters, as we have been told, and as I have shown you, the Guardian is reporting, people, hundreds of people have been left at the mercy or the lack of mercy of ISIS, Taliban, and Al-Qaeda. What's going to happen with international relations between the United States and Britain and France and Britain and France and England and Germany and Australia when they watch their people die? And it's Joe Biden's fault. How are American citizens going to deal with this when we watch our citizens die and it's Joe Biden's fault? You're going to tell me it's Trump's fault again? Because that excuse doesn't go anywhere. Joe Biden's commander-in-chief. This is his fault. This is on his watch. He is in the chair. He's giving the orders. Let me ask you an interesting question. What happens when it comes to our border? When it comes to our homes? Our border is wide open. We have been saying this since August 18th. We need to protect our border. We need to close our border and we need to secure it. Because, yes, 1.1 million people that we know of have already crossed into the United States in 6 months at the invitation of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Well, now we have a bunch of terrorists, 5,000 to 7,000 ISIS terrorists that were released by the Taliban to be sicked on the United States, on our people in Afghanistan and around the world. And they all know that we have a border that is wide open. In 10 days from August 15th until the attack on Kabul airport, ISIS was able to put together a better plan than Joe Biden in the last 3 months. A better plan than Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, better than what General Milley could put together. Their plans all amounted to zero, and ISIS was able to figure out a better plan in 10 days after releasing their people from jails. And you mean to tell me that those same people can't get to a United States soil, that they aren't coming into our country? Well, I hate to tell you, but they are. They're already doing it. They're already trying to do it. This is coming from World News Net. There was a person who was on the United Kingdom's no-fly watch list, and he entered the United Kingdom from Afghanistan. And as it says here, amid the mass evacuation of Brits and Afghans alike, Heapy has warned of people, quote, trying to take advantage of this process to get into the United Kingdom to cause harm. The government, of course, is insisting that thorough checks are taking place. Kind of sounds like what the United States is saying, that there's a lot of people, there's checks and balances here. But if you think that last source was bad, here is the BBC News. Afghanistan. Person on no-fly list flown to United Kingdom during Kabul evacuation. This person was later released into the United Kingdom. And you think that's not happening in the United States? In a country where we say we have to have an open border and we don't need to do background checks. We heard that all in 2019, 2020. We don't need to do background checks. We need to let people in. We need them in as quickly as possible. The LA Times last week told us we need to have 150,000 Afghan refugees in the United States. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez 2 days ago said we have to have 200,000 Afghan refugees in the United States. The numbers are going up and up. And while they go up, we are hearing from those very same Democrats, those very same progressives, that, oh, we don't need to do background checks. We just need to take those people in. Just like our southern border, we just have to open up the doors and let them in. And we are already seeing in the United States and in the United Kingdom that people are trying to enter, people who are on no-fly lists, people who are known threats, people who are questionable, who have a desire to destroy the United States and the United Kingdom and all of our allies. They are coming too. And if we don't protect our border, what will those people do when they get here? Because they are coming, because the evidence shows they are already doing it. And I don't know if that's happening in the United States, except because the internet overlords won't let me find out. And more importantly, the news media is hiding this information. You notice I'm going to international news to find out what's going on. Because the United States doesn't want to talk. The United States news media don't want to talk about this. They don't want you to have this conversation. They don't want you to consider that there are members of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, that are trying to infiltrate the refugees to get into the United States. We were just accepting, at one point, Afghanis who were just crowding around our planes, falling off of our planes, literally, to try and escape that country. We had hundreds at a time. We didn't check them. We don't know what they don't have passports. We don't know who these people are. We don't know what their intention is. And we're letting them right in. Are you not scared? Because the consequences do not end on August 31st. Win, lose, or draw. American citizens, on September 1st, there will be American citizens and British citizens who are going to be in Afghanistan. There are going to be, on September 1st, there are questionable people who do not love the United States, who have every intention of destroying the United States. That, I don't know how many, there will be people who will be in the United States as part of the refugees that we are moving into our country, as they are trying to get into and are getting into the United Kingdom right now, as we are being told by the BBC. This is national news media, international news media. This is not some conspiracy theory. And the internet overlords, social media, want you to think, well, that's just a conspiracy theory. This is news. This is international news. So let me get back to some of the comments that I do see are here. And I see D-Live is doing fantastic right now, which is good. Dal has mentioned that it would have been easier to fight a war. However, if there is to be fighting, it would have been easier if 85 billion in American equipment had not been left behind in working order to arm our enemies. The mentality of our citizens left in Afghanistan should be to look for alternatives to be jumping borders, but they shouldn't have to. Bright David says, I'm scared where this will end in my country to have allowed 200,000 Afghanis to come. Bright David, let me say, and I want to be clear for people, I am not saying that we shouldn't allow any Afghani people to come into the United States. I do want to make that distinction. I do believe the United States has an obligation to the interpreters, to some of the soldiers, some of the members of the government of Afghanistan that we know are going to get killed, that we know that they're being headhunted right now. We know that we are responsible for these individuals' lives. In fact, we have a list of these individuals. We know exactly who they are and their families. We have their names in a list, and we gave that list to the Taliban, the people who are killing them. And those people are disappearing. I've heard it from when we had former special agent and U.S. diplomat Eric Caron on this program talking with you in an exclusive interview. He was mentioning people were disappearing. We've seen it in other news media around the world. People are disappearing from the list we gave to the Afghan people. We have a responsibility to those people on that list to get them into safety, in the United States preferably, and other countries as well, but to get them to safety. And instead, we're opening up the door, and 200,000 random individuals are suddenly walking into our country. Not counting, I don't know how many that will take the money that has been left in Afghanistan, that are going to take the weapons that have been left in Afghanistan and go to our southern border, or worse yet, through our northern border in Canada that is wide open, and come into our nation and do damage to our people. We have a problem that is decades long now. And it gets worse and worse with more and more time. So it's a question. You know, do I want to take in Afghan people that we have put in harm's way? Absolutely. Do I think we should have given a list to terrorists, to known terrorists, and said to them, hey, here's a bunch of your own people who hate your guts. Please don't kill them. We want them. And they're like, yeah, sure. No problem. This is the name of all the people in Afghanistan that we need to kill to take over this country, to maintain control of this country. These are the people that worked with the devil, because Americans are considered the devil, because we don't believe what the Taliban believes. We don't have the same religious beliefs. We think women should be able to read and to write, that they should be able to drive a car and to go to work, that 15-year-old girls shouldn't be married off to 30-year-old men. Because we have such strange and unique principles like that, the Taliban wants to kill us. ISIS wants to kill us. Al-Qaeda want to kill us. And we gave them a list of other people in Afghanistan that think exactly like we do in America, that they want to support women's rights. They want to support LGBTQ rights. They want to protect children. And we just gave them that list. Do I think we have a responsibility to those people? Absolutely, yes, I do. I think we need to get those people here. But if you tell me we're supposed to just open the doors, open the floodgates to everyone in Afghanistan who wants to show up, no, we don't have that obligation. Neither does the United Kingdom, neither does Australia or France or Germany. We don't have the obligation to just open up our doors, let anyone walk in and pray for the best outcome possible. That's irresponsible, which is the definition, I believe, of the Biden administration to date. It has been irresponsible. It has been inept to a degree that is literally criminal. Now, David, you may think I'm wrong, and I'm not trying to scare you. And I'm happy to hear what you have to say about it. But I definitely think this is not in the best interest of the United States or anyone else. You know what? I'm not the only one who thinks like that. I want you to hear something, because I think this is really telling. Because a lot of people are figuring this out, that there is a problem here. This is from Bill Maher. Bill Maher on his HBO real-time show, August 27th. And this is what he had to say. What are the lessons of Afghanistan? So let's start this off.
And finally, new rule, blind hatred of America is just as blinkered as blind love. And we Americans should really get some perspective about where we live. Watching the shit go down in Afghanistan, I was reminded lately of every conversation I've ever had with an immigrant, almost all of which, if we got to really talking, included the notion, oh, you people have no idea. All you do is bitch about and badmouth your own country, but if you knew about the country I came from you'd stop shitting on your own. Now, right? I have never been a rah-rah America type, and in fact have often made fun of Republicans in the past for being overly sentimental.
And I'm not worried about his. This is where Bill Maher decides to take a couple of pot shots at Americans who have strong beliefs in politics that don't agree with his. So we're going to skip that. And I want to bring you to where he stops being partisan and attacking people for their political beliefs. And he picks back up right here.
Yeah, I mean, neither experience was pleasant. But I didn't have to worry about being dragged till I'm dead behind a Toyota Tacoma. Have a little perspective about the stuff we howl about here. I'm sorry your professor said something you didn't like. That won't be a problem with the Taliban because you're not allowed to go to school. In Saudi Arabia, grown women can be jailed for doing the kind of things we think of as routine without the permission of a male guardian. China rounds you up if you're the wrong religion and puts you in camps. More children in Burkina Faso work than are in school. Only 5% of Burundians have electricity. The homicide rate in Honduras is 8 times what it is here. The inflation rate in Venezuela is 2,719%. The Philippines, in the last 5 years, has put to death 27,000 low-level drug dealers. My old job. In North Korea, people starve to death. The only people who starve here are doing it for a role. And the only people who have no water live in California. If you think America is irredeemable, turn on the news or get a passport and a ticket on one of those sketchy airlines that puts its web address on the plane. There's a reason Afghan mothers are handing their babies to us. Right. And we should take them. Americans right now should take in Afghan refugees into their homes and into their neighborhoods. And I'm sure everyone who just clapped is thinking the same thing. Yes, someone who isn't me should definitely do that. But that doesn't make us the bad guys. We're not the bad guys. Oppression is what we were trying to stop in Afghanistan. We failed, but any immigrant will tell you we've largely succeeded here. And yet the overriding thrust of current woke ideology is that America is rotten to the core, irredeemably racist from the moment it was founded, and so oppressive, sexist, and homophobic, we can't find a host for the Oscars or Jeopardy. Oh, yeah. I'm sure you heard the new Jeopardy guy is out because he said boobies in 2014. And this is where your new Afghani roommates that you took in will prove so valuable because they'll turn to you and say, have you people lost your fucking minds? Have you ever heard of honor killings, public beheadings, throwing gay men off of roofs? Arranged marriages to minors, state-sanctioned wife-beating, female genital mutilation, marriage by capture? Because we have. What's the lesson of Afghanistan? Maybe it's that everyone from the giant dorm room bitch session that is the internet should take a good look at what real oppression looks like. Ask your maid. Ask your Uber driver. Ask the Asian woman giving you a massage. She'll tell you this place is Shangri-La, and not just because she works in a place called Shangri-La. America may not be the country of your faculty lounge and Twitter dreams, but no one here tries to escape by hanging on to an airplane. No. We wait till we're inside the plane to fight. And then only because they cut off the beverage service.
Okay, so, you know, he tries to make it sound like such a joke. Like it's so funny. Like, oh my God, isn't this the funniest thing you've ever heard? And before you think, and I do want to get back to you, and thank you, David, because I do think this is honest, and I'm trying to be honest and fair and real with people. Something we're not getting from the Biden administration, that we're not getting from our elected leaders like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. They're trying to avoid this reality and the consequences that are coming down the line. This is going to happen, folks. I hate to be saying this, but I want you to know it. And that's why we're seeing people like Bill Maher who are now suddenly turning around and going, oh my God, this is a problem. This is a serious consequence. The left have gone too far. These guys are out of their minds. And this is the consequence of doing that. They're running away so fast from Afghanistan that they are endangering American citizens and people around the world. They are increasing the net global terror in the world. That they are costing American lives and those of our allies and friends around the world. And before anyone starts to say, well, Bill Maher, what a great guy, I'm so happy that he said that, I want to remind you that Bill Maher is also the guy who put Fran Lebowitz on his channel, on his show, so that she could say that we should kill the president by dismembering him. And he had nothing to say about that. He was perfectly fine with that. In fact, that's why he brought her onto the show, which we covered on this channel. And he's also the guy who said, and you may have remembered this, that Bill Maher, and by the way, this was in 2019. In 2019, Bill Maher was the guy who said that we have survived recessions. We can survive another one. I don't think we can survive another White House term for Trump. He was more than happy to see you in a recession, to lose your jobs, to lose your homes, to be starving. He was happy with that as long as it meant that he didn't get to see Orange Man Bad make another tweet. That was all he cared about. He didn't care about having a recession. He didn't care about the consequences of the election. It was Bill Maher who said, and this was from May 19 of 2020, May 19th, 2020, when we covered this, Bill Maher was more than happy to throw Me Too under a bus. And he said, it's okay to ignore that Joe Biden sexually assaulted a woman. These are the same people who said, hey, you know what? Andrew Cuomo's a great guy. Don't mind the fact that he has 11 sexual assaults. Don't mind that he killed 16,000 people. That's not important. He's a great guy. Well, this is Bill Maher saying that Joe Biden is a great guy. It's more important to vote Democrat than to be worried about his sexual assaults that he has committed. And this is the same guy, this is the same Bill Maher that today is lecturing his audience of far left progressive socialist Democrats. And now he's telling them, you guys are just too serious. This is your fault. Get off of the woke band and realize that America is great and that we have a great country. And meanwhile, he was part of the reason why our country got devastated. He could care less. Let's put this in perspective. Bill Maher wanted you to be in a recession. Bill Maher doesn't care about Me Too, women, or sexual assault. He doesn't care. He wants political power. And the second that he realizes the choices that he helped push, the results and consequences of what he asked people to do, when he suddenly realizes that it's actually going to kill some of the people he knows and it's going to endanger his life, that's the moment that he finally decides, oh, well, maybe this has gone too far. Maybe we need to pull back. Maybe this is someone else's fault. I get it. Bill Maher, he does opinion like I do. We do political commentary. I get it that he is a far left radical, always has been. I understand that. But you know what? He's finally realizing, look at what you just elected. He voted for Biden. He suggested to his audience, you have to vote for Biden. He demonized me and every other conservative and Republican and libertarian. He demonized us for years. Told everyone that we were akin to the devil. He put guests onto his show saying that we should be dismembered, that we were the worst things possible, and that we were mindless idiots. And then he turned around to his crowd and said, hey, don't worry, just do what I say. Vote this guy in because it's better than Orange Man bad. And here he is on August 27th, suddenly turning around and going, oh my God, this guy is stupid. Biden doesn't know what he's doing. Biden is endangering the United States, and we have a really damn good country. Our country is great. The rest of the world looks at our country and they go, wow, this is such a great country. Why are you screwing it up? And he is suddenly woken up and realized, oh my God, look what I have been doing to my own country. Look how I have been destroying my country. I hope more people who are woke, more of the progressive and democratic socialists see that and realize that if Bill Maher will turn around and wake up and say, oh my God, we have a great country and we are destroying it. I hope they wake that up, and I hope they get active and sell their members like Nancy Pelosi, like Chuck Schumer, like Adam Schiff, and tell them, get off your ass, get out there and protect the people. Close our border. Check the refugees for their backgrounds. Don't accept everyone and anyone, and stop spending all our money that we don't have. And maybe, go out to our allies, have a conversation with them, and let them know that we're there to support them, that we actually will back them up, and that we will stop doing things like, hey, we're leaving. Are you guys staying? Oh, goodbye. You got no support from us anymore. Because this is a great way to destroy our country. This is a great way to end everything we know about America. And I know there are many democratic socialists like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, members of Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, otherwise known as PLOT, Antifa, BLM. I know that they're running around screaming, saying, I hope that America ends. You fools, you absolute ignorant fools. Do you think the Taliban will allow you to live one more second just because you say, I'm part of BLM? I hate the white man. The white man bad. Orange man bad. And they will kill you just as soon as anyone else. Why? Because you let women read. Because the very same democratic socialists who are screaming out there that we have to have LGBTQ plus AI, whatever, straight down the alphabet, they'll kill you just for that. Trans rights, they'll kill you for that. You have a daughter who's 15 and she's not married, they'll kill you for that. As we have covered on this show, the Taliban will and have killed women recently after August 15th because they didn't cook dinner. And you think saying, well, I'm actually a socialist, that's actually going to protect you? Bill Maher's finally woken up and said, oh, they're not. The threat isn't going to stop just because I say I'm a socialist. Just because you say I'm a liberal, I'm a progressive. That's not going to protect you. But let me go back to some of the comments because I see Dallas had a lot to say about this. First he's mentioning, as I had mentioned, about the list that we, the United States, have provided to the Taliban about people in their own nation. Dow mentions, we have a list of people that you consider traitors. Please don't kill them. And Taliban's like, sure, get out the country. Just leave. On September 1st, we'll go and take care of those people. We'll help those people. Terrifying. Dale goes on to mention, because giving a list of supporters to those that are in violent opposition to you is an excellent practice. Bill Maher is an opinion commentary show. His dig at his audience about someone else should do that is the reason that people watch him. Steve Colbert, John, what's his face, and late night host. That's right. I mean, he's being very honest, because that's what the Democratic Socialists are saying. Yes, we should have all these immigrants. We don't need to check their backgrounds. We don't need a border. Everyone can come on in to your house. They can go into your city. They can take your resources. They can't come into theirs. Have you seen the wall around Nancy Pelosi's house? Have you seen the wall that surrounds the New York governor's mansion? Have you seen the wall that's down in the mayor's mansion in New York City? Have you seen the walls? Have you seen the military patrols around them? Your house, they don't care about. It's okay for you. Someone else will have to deal with it, not them. They're the progressives. They're the Democratic Socialists. They're the good guys. It should go to where the bad guys are. This is one country, you know. And our country is great, and the world knows it. I'm not saying it's perfect. No country is perfect. No human being is perfect. But when we have this idea that we need to destroy a great nation where millions of people, we have a nation that is so great that people are running onto an airfield to jump onto a jet plane to try and hold on for their dear lives and fall to their deaths rather than not be around us. We are so good to people that people are willing to essentially commit suicide by airplane to try and get here. And we have people like Al Sharpton who are telling us that, oh, no, America's horrible. America's a horrible, evil place. And when I say that, I want to be very clear. I'm not making this up. I'm not making some kind of joke here. This is Al Sharpton saying this. This is it. Here it is. Here's the article from Newsweek today. Today in Newsweek, Al Sharpton calls on the Biden to push voting rights legislation because the United States government is stabbing black people in the back. This is what Al Sharpton is trying to make you believe. He literally is. He goes on out there, Mr. President, they're stabbing us in the back. He wants to tell you that the United States Congress, members of Congress, they're trying to stab people in the back, black people in the back, because America's evil and racist, just like Bill Maher told you it's not. But no, Al Sharpton, it's racist. It's racism. By the way, Al Sharpton, every single poll that has ever been done shows that black Americans want police in their communities, either the same amount or more than what they have right now. Every poll that has ever been done shows that Americans overwhelmingly, including black people by the amount of about 70%, want voter IDs, that you have to prove who you are when you make a vote, whether it's being done online or mailed in or in person. You have to prove who you are when you vote. 70% of Americans, black Americans, believe in that. Every single poll has ever shown that. You know what, Al Sharpton? You want me to believe that black Americans think that they're being oppressed? Show me a poll where there is any proof where they're saying, if I get an ID, I can't, that's too much. I don't need an ID to vote. It doesn't exist. Remember the Texas Democrats that ran away from their job on a paid vacation to Washington, D.C., because they said they didn't want to vote for what the public wants, which is an ID to prove that you are who you say you are when you vote. Do you know in Texas, because I know Al Sharpton doesn't know this, I know that and I've shown you the video when they were talking to Representative Nancy Mace, when they were talking to Representative Chip Roy, they didn't know. You know how many people vote in elections in Texas that are white? 65%. Do you know how many black people vote in elections in Texas? 64%. I'll say it again. 65% of whites and 64% of blacks vote in Texas. Do you know how many people are registered that are black in Texas? 72%. And yet Al Sharpton's like, but they're stabbing us in the back because because our leaders in Congress are doing what the people asked us to do. In fact, the only people who don't want IDs, who don't want police, they happen to be progressives. They happen to be the Democratic Socialists. Even Democrats want this stuff. And they're telling you that if you don't want this, America is evil and you should not want this. No, America does want this. What America doesn't want is what Al Sharpton is selling. I mean, this is a problem. Look at this. When we look at Governor Hochul, who came out of nowhere because, the other governor, once again, third governor in a row for New York State, got removed in disgrace, Andrew Cuomo. She pops up. She's like, hey, I'm great, and I'm going to get this black lieutenant governor, and he's going to be with me. Except the black lieutenant governor says he's like Al Sharpton. He wants to defund the police. He doesn't believe in a voter ID. He wants mail-in ballots that anyone can fill out and send in, including illegal aliens. He wants to defund the police so that New York, every city in New York can be like what we see in Seattle and in Portland and in Austin and in Boulder and in all 22 cities that have defunded the police so far, which means skyrocketing crime and violence in every single city that this was done in. By the way, every single one of the 22 cities that did this, they're all Democratic cities, run by Democrats. And in every single one of them, every single time, including St. Louis, including Minneapolis, where Representative Cory Bush, is like, we have to defund the police. I'm so happy we've defunded the police. And the crime rate went up 70%. It went up so high that the autonomous zone, the George Floyd autonomous zone, which is an insurrection point, there were reporters capturing live a drive-by shooting. That's the kind of lack of safety they want, and that's what the new lieutenant governor now wants to do. Lieutenant Governor Benjamin wants you to have less safety, less freedom, because black. Al Sharpton wants you to think America is evil and racist because black. Meanwhile, we're hearing people like, amazingly, Bill Maher suddenly turn around and go, oh my God, wait a minute. It's not all just black. It's not all America's horrible and evil. All these people from all these countries are willing to die by airplane, falling off of airplanes to get to this country. Maybe, just maybe, could be, we're in a pretty good country. And meanwhile, we have Joe Biden saying, doesn't really matter. We're going to leave those people in harm's way. We're going to leave Americans in Afghanistan. They're going to die. But we will get back to them. We will get back to you. It's kind of like Jen Psaki, the press secretary for the White House. We'll get back to them. I'll circle back. It's so aggravating, folks. It drives me nuts. And this is why you've seen throughout the last 2 hours, where I had to even stop and start again, because the internet overlords don't want you to have this conversation. They don't want you to pay attention to the news and to put it in order and understand what's going on. They don't want you to think about what's happening here. They want you to think like this. In my local community, in Binghamton, New York, their residents, they're screaming about eviction, eviction. It's evil. It's wrong. Okay, let me remind people that since November of 2020, on this channel, we have been warning people that there is an eviction crisis that was coming. In January, we told you that there were somewhere between 12 to 19 million Americans who were facing eviction and or foreclosure. The Biden administration knew it. They knew all about it. And they kicked it down the road. They said, oh, we'll deal with that later. Pelosi, Schumer, Kirsten Gillibrand, all the Democrats, they knew about the eviction crisis. Cori Bush, who suddenly wants to cry on camera with AOC right beside her as they dance away, saying, we're going to try and fix this eviction crisis after it's already become a problem. After they kicked it down the road and then they couldn't pass it down anymore. After Joe Biden willfully and actively broke our Constitution by disregarding the Supreme Court. Then they decided, oh, wait, this is a political thing. We can take advantage of it. It's black. All the progressives are going to go out of their mind because we're mentioning the word black. And we're going to say eviction. Who could have possibly known? Besides anyone who was paying attention since November of 2020, and we have mentioned it on this program at least 5 different times, if not a dozen. And now we have these groups that are popping out of nowhere. The stakeholders of Broome County. You know what that means? BLM Antifa. Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, BLM and Antifa. That individual is a member of at least Citizen Action and I believe Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, as they have spoken at events for each of these groups. And I believe Truth Farm as well. You see, these individuals, they're all the same people. They just have a lot of titles that they use depending on what message they want to understand. You want to be angry about being black in America? Well, don't worry. They can make you angry because of eviction. Because only black people are being evicted, right? No. Because Democrats can fix this, except they haven't. They've had, what month is this? We're about to be in September. They've had 9 months to fix the problem. Guess what? They didn't. They didn't care. Well, no. Well, BLM, it's voting rights, except people are voting. Texas, people are voting. Florida, black people are voting. The only person who thinks that black people can't figure out how to register to vote is Joe Biden, as he talks down to black people on CNN at a town hall. He's the only one who thinks that black people can't afford to get an ID or to get online and to register to vote. But Al Sharpton's telling you it's black. It's all evil. It's against black people. The only people who are against black people happen to be BLM, Progressive Leaders Tomorrow, the progressive left of America. They're the only ones who think black people can't do anything. They're the only ones who think that black people are substandard and so that they have to take care of them. And they're almost all overwhelmingly white and old and rich, like Nancy Pelosi, like Chuck Schumer. Or they happen to be old and black progressives like, well, Al Sharpton. Where was Al Sharpton since November of 2020 telling you about the eviction crisis? Because I have the videos. I can show you when I've talked about it under a Republican president and under a Democratic one. Saying the same thing. We need to fix this problem. Because he can't keep kicking it down the road. It only gets bigger. I said that under Republicans. I say it under Democrats. You know what? The Democrats didn't care. The Republicans were knocked out of office, so they couldn't fix it. But black. And if you don't agree, racist. You're a racist if you don't agree. Are you kidding me? And yes, they will tell me, that I am black. They will tell Larry Elder in the LA Times, as you have seen, they will tell Larry Elder that he is not black. Because blackness is decided by progressives based on your political position. What did Joe Biden tell you? You ain't black if you don't vote for him. Larry Elder isn't black because he's a Republican and a conservative. They've told me I'm not black because I'm a Republican and I'm a conservative. Who gave them the power to decide? So this is very upsetting. I know there's a couple of comments here from Dal. And by the way, folks, everyone is open to speak. YouTube seems to be finally allowing this show to continue. I believe we're on Twitter and Facebook, maybe. So your tweets are always welcome. By the way, if you can't do it during the show, do it after the show. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear what your thoughts are. If you think I'm wrong, I want to hear you tell me why. I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here to understand. If you think that Bill Maher finally gets it, or rather Bill Maher doesn't get it, that he's somehow a traitor because he suddenly realized that America isn't the devil, that it isn't a hellhole here, that people do have rights, that people are going out and voting, women are going to school, women are able to get jobs, they are able to vote. We don't have 15-year-olds being married off to 30-year-old men. That we're not, as he pointed out in China, people just because they have a religion aren't being disappeared by the government like China does. That children aren't being put into child labor until they die, like we see in many countries. People have power. You have running water. You have lights. You know what? We have a pretty damn good country. I tell you, it really does get me upset. But Dow mentions, but I want to hear your comments, folks. I want to hear your comments. What do you think? If you think I am wrong, if you think that Al Sharpton is right, that black people have no rights, that you suddenly can't vote for some reason, please tell me why. Show me. You know what? I asked this of Representative Anthony Delgado on Facebook, and I asked him a very simple question. Show me the line. Show me the part of any law in any state that stops black people from voting anywhere. I've asked that. I've asked that of Nancy Pelosi. I've asked that of Chuck Schumer, of Kirsten Gillibrand. I've asked that of Adam Schiff. I've asked that of Anthony Delgado in the New York 19th District. And I asked him very clearly, just show me the line in any law anywhere in the United States that is law or proposed that says black people can't vote. Or show me the law that says this is how we stop black people from voting. Because if you tell me that black people don't have an ID, over 85% of black people have ID already. So that's not it. If you're going to tell me, black people can't figure out how to use the internet, well, you're an idiot. That's just not true. And it's insulting. Please tell me, what is it in these laws that is suddenly stopping black people from voting right in line with the same amount that we see whites voting in state after state after state? Show me that line. If you want to tell me that the eviction crisis is all about black people losing their homes, well, one, let's look at actual numbers. That's not true. And two, well, if it's such a big deal, why weren't these very same people, the stakeholders of Broome County and so many others, why weren't you yelling at your elected officials, the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi? Why weren't you yelling at Joe Biden to actually fix the problem? Because progressives want problems. They don't care about answers. They don't care about black people or women. You're just a tool. Again, I will go back to Bill Maher. As I showed you just a moment ago, Bill Maher doesn't care about women. He didn't care about women. That was on May, again, just for reference, that was May 19th of 2020. Bill Maher didn't care about women. He was more than happy to allow women to be sexually assaulted if it meant the guy he wanted to win an election would win an election. Bill Maher didn't care about whether you got evicted from your home. He didn't care if you had a job. When was this? August of 2019. He didn't care if you had a job. He didn't care if you could feed your family. He didn't care if you had a house. He wanted to win an election. He wanted his people to win. Today, he's upset about it. Today, he's worried about women. Today, he's worried about who's in office. But back when he was trying to win an election, he could care less. And, you know, then there's, of course, all those wonderful people like Keith Olbermann. This man is absolutely insane. He is ridiculous. Listen to this. This is the extreme. We get to hear this from Keith Olbermann.
Trump can be and must be expunged.
Oh.
The hate he has triggered, the Pandora's box he has opened, they will not be so easily destroyed. So, let us brace ourselves. The task is twofold. The terrorist Trump must be defeated, must be destroyed, must be devoured at the ballot box. And then he and his enablers and his supporters and his collaborators and the Mike Lees and the William Barrs and the Sean Hannitys and the Mike Pences and the Rudy Giulianis and the Kyle Rittenhouses and the Amy Coney Barretts must be prosecuted and convicted and removed from our society.
Did you hear that? This is what the left thinks. This is what these are the progressives. These are the democratic socialists. You don't agree. You have to be expunged. You have to be removed. He said it right there. The supporters. If you supported anyone except Joe Biden, you are the problem. You listen to Al Sharpton talk about this. If you don't agree with him, you're the problem. If you listen to critical race theory, you're the problem. If you don't agree with them, you're the problem. If you don't agree with the stakeholders of Broome County, you're the problem. Maybe, just maybe, we're not the problem. Maybe, just maybe, we're the majority of America. And they just have really big mouths. And they're wrong. And we've seen them be wrong over and over again. And when we follow policies that they like defunding the police, like running away from Afghanistan without any regard for the consequences of how we run away, we create a problem bigger than existed before we were listening to them. Yet they're hurting and damaging America. And they're slowly waking up. They're slowly realizing that they are some of the worst people, that they are actually doing more damage and more harm to themselves and to everyone around them than anyone else could possibly do. These guys, the members of BLM, members of Plot, Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, members of Citizen Action, or what other name they want to use at any given moment to make it sound like the majority of people actually believe what they believe, which doesn't happen. There's 7 of them over there. Why? Because only 7 people really care about what they're saying. And they don't care what they do. That's why their members like Tariq Abdelazim, which we have shown you on this show, are willing to attack women, to be violent against women and to elected officials. And that's why he got arrested. They're willing to do anything because they don't think you're human, because you don't agree with them. That's terrifying. And that's why we see Joe Biden, who's trying to get their vote. He's trying to make the progressives feel good, and he's more than willing to sacrifice American citizens in Afghanistan. He's willing to sacrifice British citizens and the French and the Germans and the Australians. And that's why the internet hates me today. They don't want me to talk to you about this. They don't want you to hear this. They don't want you to think about this. You don't have to agree with me. All I want you to do is to think about it, because I have shown you this evidence and this information from every credible news source from around the world. Almost every single news source I have shown you is from the left. And they want to tell you, oh, no, you just don't understand. These are their words. These are their actions. These are the consequences of their actions. We can stop this. Reach out to your local representative. Reach out to Anthony Delgado. Reach out to Claudia Tenney. Reach out to Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Kirsten Gillibrand, AOC. Reach out to Adam Schiff. Tell these people, what are you doing? Please, seal our border. Protect our people. Get everyone out of Afghanistan safely and alive. Tell them that. And tell them if they don't do it, you won't vote for them. You won't donate to them. And you won't let people like Andrew Cuomo donate instead of you. That you're not going to allow that to happen. You're going to stop the corruption. You're going to stop the ridiculousness. And I know that there are people who are paying attention to that. There's people like Claudia Tenney, who is actively working against this, who is working to try and improve the situation. And I've got and I have it right here. There it is. And, so there are people who are paying attention to what you want. August 26th, Claudia Tenney is asking for, there is no confidence in the commander-in-chief and Joe Biden at this time, that we need to execute the 25th Amendment. We need to impeach Joe Biden so that we can protect American citizens that he is about to leave in Afghanistan and forget about them. He's going to leave them there to die and forget about it until it's no longer his problem. If you think I'm wrong, please tell me how. If you think Joe Biden is doing a great job, that he would never leave an American citizen behind, I have shown you since August 15th, I have shown you multiple times where the United States government and Joe Biden are saying, we're going to leave people behind. They know they're going to do it. It is a plan. And when those American citizens die, they're going to just ignore it. If you think I'm wrong, tell me how. Because I have shown you them saying it in their own words. On C-SPAN, on MSNBC, on NBC, their own words. I know Claudia Tenney's trying to protect us from it. I know Anthony Delgado is trying to support Joe Biden. He's trying to support this corruption, this destruction. I don't know. And in the meantime, I'm fighting with the internet overlords who don't want me to speak. They're trying to silence my voice. They're trying to silence your voice. They're making it almost impossible to watch this program. They're making it almost impossible to hear what is being said. They're making it almost impossible for you to respond. And it's not because they believe in freedom. It's not because they believe in the First Amendment of free speech. I don't know. But maybe you found something in this today was interesting, worthwhile, something that you didn't know about before. Share it with others. Ask them to come back. Hopefully, in the future, we'll see that the internet overlords give me a break. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe as we grow and our audience gets bigger and bigger, they don't get away with doing what they're doing right now because they think we're too small. Maybe we get to make America just a little bit better together. That's what I hope for. So I wanted to get back, before I go, Dow mentions BlackRock Financial Group is a well-known name that is doing the financing for the eviction crisis. Once corporations nationalize rental properties, then the executive mandate would be lifted, all tenants would be evicted, the rentals would be renovated, and then re-rented at higher prices or government-subsidized housing. And that's what makes the case for lending credence to the globalist plan of population manipulation and depopulation, coupled with the Great Reset. I can't say that that doesn't make sense. I don't think it's correct, not completely. But again, it's a concern, and we should be able to have this conversation. We should be able to voice these concerns without internet overlords trying to silence us. I don't know, folks. It's tiring. What I'll do is, I'm going to go now. And I hope to hear your comments. You were denied the opportunity to speak to me on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter today. Please leave your comments, and there'll be links to everything, every source, and description, so that you'll be able to see this. Please let me know. What do you think? And please be aware, every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am going to be here. I will fight through what the internet overlords, their shadow banning, their disruption of the signal, their attempt to make sure that you cannot speak and you cannot hear. And I will fight that every week, every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. because you matter. Your voice matters. Your vote matters. I'm not asking you to vote Republican. I'm not asking you to vote conservative or libertarian. I'm asking you to be involved. That's it. Folks, I hope you're going to be well. I hope when we speak next week, there will not be any horror stories about Americans left in Afghanistan. We can hope. We can hope. Until next week. And please do keep an eye on the show, on the channel. We're going to have several videos throughout the week, and we look forward to seeing you too. What was that? Dow mentions I would suggest using alternative descriptors in your comments after the show, or comments will be censored. Also, get creative. Yeah, they have. YouTube has a fun time of deleting comments that I never get to see. So, but folks, do comment. Please do comment. And I believe there's a delay on the show right now, so I'm going to play some music for a little bit, and I'm going to give it about 5 minutes to catch up, so that if there is a lag, you're still going to see everything that's been said on the show today. Thank you, folks.